Good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Deepali Hande, Coordinator of Ahmednagar District, Maharashtra State, IAP Women's Cell, welcome all the participants for today's webinar. IAP Women's Cell was started on 30th May 2018. It functions under able guidance of National Head Dr. Ruchi Ma'am and IAP President Executive Dr. Sanjeev Jha. IAP Women's Cell works towards conducting public awareness camps, CME, workshops. It aims at bringing together all physiotherapy professionals for sharing knowledge and improving public awareness about physiotherapy. We have 5 zones of IAP Women's Cell in India with head for each branch. Dr. Pooja Kambre is West Zone head. The state team of IAP Women's Cell Maharashtra includes State Coordinator Dr. Suvarna Ganvir Ma'am, Joint Coordinator Dr. Snehal Patel, and Sub-Coordinators Dr. Uttara Mohan, Dr. Priya Karande, and Dr. Nirali Sanghvi. Maharashtra IAP Women's Cell has conducted 40 plus low-cost activities in various districts, and in first corporate IAP conference, which was held in Indore, April 2019, Maharashtra state received award for Best State IAP Women's Cell. Our today's guest speaker, Dr. Maria Ma'am, is renowned academician who is Associate Professor Physiotherapy working in SAID, GSMC, and KM Hospital since 26 years, and she has guided numerous postgraduate and PhD students. She is the FAMER Fellow and Faculty of Board of Studies member and Faculty Allied Health Sciences NASIC. She is the head of GSMC MUHS UNESCO Bioethics Unit, and she is also assistant editor of JPGM. She is convener of Mumbai IAP branch. Before heading towards today's webinar, I have some announcement. I request all the teachers to keep their audio on mute mode. In between, Dr. Maria Ma'am will ask some questions, so you can write the answers in the chat box. If you have any query or questions related to today's webinar, you can post your questions on the chat box. At the end of the webinar, Dr. Maria Ma'am will try to give answers of all the questions. Now I welcome Dr. Maria Ma'am for today's webinar on direct observation of procedural skill and mini clinical evaluation exercise. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Is my screen seen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Screen is seen?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you do the full screen? Full screen. Slideshow. Can you put in the slideshow?
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so at the outset, good afternoon, everyone, and greetings to my teachers who are present here. I would like to first acknowledge the screen is not moving. Just a minute. So I would like to acknowledge the Women's Cell IAP Maharashtra, especially Ganvir Madam, who has taken up this teaching technology online in the form of webinar series, especially for all the teachers here. I also acknowledge all my mentors, my past HODs, Belare Madam, Amita Madam, Takshi Writer Madam, my head of the institute, Dr. Roque, and present Dr. Deshmukh, and Dr. Supe and Dr. Tejinder Singh, who has been the stalwarts in India towards the whole development of FAMER and especially towards the topic of today. Dr. Salagre and team, Dr. Munira, Ashwini, FAMER faculty and friends, but they've always been there with us during any moment, for sharing of resources, helping out. So my acknowledgements to them as I begin with today's lecture and the objectives. So I put it as that what are we going to do for today is at the end of the session, we will understand the salient features of assessment. We can describe the process of DOPS and MiniSEX and formulate a plan for implementing it in the physiotherapy curriculum. We all know the pillars of education. They're basically three: objectives, the learning strategies, and evaluation and feedback. As an academic group, we always begin with formulating objectives. Then we go on to planning the teaching learning methods and we put that on paper. And the end, we go over to assessment because that's the end part for us. Whereas for students, they go backwards. They first look at the assessments. They want to know how they are going to be assessed and they want to know what they are going to demonstrate. The theme assessment drives learning is very well understood. We need to shift from there to understand assessment for learning. That assessments are taken at the end so far and as objective calculation to make decisions and judgments. We need to start refining and thinking of how assessments can be done for the learning process. If you read here, it's a very nice cartoon that I like. It says, I taught Stripe how to whistle. And the other assessor says, I don't hear him whistling. And he says, but I said I taught. I didn't say he learned it. So that's probably a gap that is existing in between. We teach. I feel I have taught PD. And I expect that the student has learned PD, but when it comes to demonstration, demonstrate something vague, and then I say, oh, but I had taught. So there is a big gap here that we need to address. And when we revise the evaluation model, what we are looking at is basically the results in the end. We have competencies that are designed for our curriculum. We want to see the impact on the society. We want to see the impact as a whole. So the Kirkpatrick evaluation model moves to different levels of training. It is assessment of how our training has taken place. Whether the person enjoyed, that is from level 1, to whether learning transfer occurred, to whether you have seen the change in behavior, and finally, what has been the influence on performance. And similarly, when we look at the Miller's pyramid of competence, looking through the various domains that we identify and we put it on our assessment sheets as cognitive, psychomotor, and affective, it goes through a level of knows to does, where does is what he actually performs. And many times that does is missed. And what is there in the society, what the other person sees is what is does, not what is knows or what is knows how. So once again, we'll be revising through our curriculum framework. We have the first BPTH, the second BPTH, the third BPTH, the fourth year. So when we are looking at the first year, we're building up the foundation. That is where we are in the Miller's pyramid of knows. When we move through the second year, we are looking at various physiotherapeutic skills and modalities. We are looking at understanding these modalities. We are looking at application of these modalities. So we are looking at the knows how concept. As we move in further, in the third year, it's through the patient that we expect diagnosis. We want reasoning. We want analysis. We want a higher cognitive level. So we are integrating the knows how to the shows and the does. The does part is when you are expecting them to do physical therapy diagnosis and come to a conclusion. In the fourth year, the building blocks of everything has built in. And what is it? It is evaluation, plan, execution, and plan of care. Oh, the syllabus is beautiful. If you look at it, all the competencies are very well put in its place. And that's where the does is. Moving ahead in internship, you have something called a supervised clinical practice. And even through the remaining years, we have that clinical practice in place. Now, what is this? In the internship, the person has acquired the skills, acquired the competencies, and now you're entrusting them to the professional practice. So that is an entrusted professional activity, and it is in the workplace area. So throughout, from the third year onwards, you are looking at the does component in the workplace till you have an activity. It from the way you have communication skills, professional practices very well laid down so that the achievable competency at the end when the graduate moves out of the curriculum. So my first question to you is, what is the difference between a competency and a performance? What you can do now is you can just put it down in your chat box and we can just understand from it that what is it that exactly we are looking at. Can we have around 30 seconds for it? Answers? Do we have any answers?
Yes, ma'am. One of the attendees has said that competency means students' capacity to
Do we
understand
have any answers?
the manner of achievement. Hello? Ma'am, one attendee has answered that it is
Yeah.
the ability, performance is what he performs. Ability to perform or ability of the performance. One more attendee has answered that competency is the ability to understand the performance execution.
Yes. So what we are looking at is we are using these terms very frequently. We use the term competency. We use the term competent. We expect the individual to be competent when he. I think there is some disturbance of the sound. So competency is an observable ability to execute a particular task. Competence is possessing the required ability in all the domains. That means you are looking at knowledge, you are looking at affairs. I think there is a disturbance. Somebody is audio is on with echo. During the medical education or during the practice. So that is what we are looking at when we are looking at competency and competence. That means it is an observable thing that you're looking at each and every domain. So that when you talk it is at the shows how level. When you say performance, performance is the actual quality that you're looking out. That means what the person actually does in the workplace. So that is the performance and that is at the does level. So to evaluate the quality of education, to evaluate the impact of education, you need to look at the performance level and that is the does. So going back to the Miller's pyramid, When we are looking at thus, there are basically seen through the workplace-based evaluation, which is integrated into practice through direct observation. Shows is what is by OSCE, which was just taken, the last webinar was beautifully taken by Dr. Gaurang Bakshi of how you conduct an OSCE. And then you have nose and nose house, which is basically theoretical, where you're looking at MCQs, which could be practical applied MCQs, which could be problem solving MCQs, which could be analytical MCQs. That was taken in the earlier webinar by Dr. Bhavna Matre on mechanics of paper setting. So we are moving from knows how, shows to does, and today we are going to talk about the does, that is the workplace based evaluation. But before we go over there, we just need to understand our present system of evaluation. We are looking at most of the things through long case, short case, which may be on models, later on patients, that is the long case, and then you have spots, and in the internship it is basically evaluated using logbooks and internship grading forms. The newer methods of evaluation, which are found to be more robust, are the OSCEs, the DOPS, the mini sets, the logbook, clinical encounter cards, where cards are given to them with certain codes of patient diagnosis, and those are screened later as and when the person sees it. Chart simulated records are something like a case-based discussions. Portfolios are what the student maintains throughout the learning. Multi-source feedback, taking feedback for different people of the health team, and a 360-degree evaluation. So basically what you need is a triangulation concept when we are doing assessment for seeing the educational impact. Now, another question that I pose to you is that what is the lacuna? Can we reflect on the lacuna on the present system of the assessment of skills that we are doing as long case, short case, we are doing spots, we are doing everything. So can we reflect on that? Can we have around 30 seconds for that? You can write it in your chat box.
Ma'am, one attendee has said it is subjective. Another said it is not covering the 360-degree assessment of the learner.
Any other answers?
No, ma'am. Time constraint. Just now one attendee said time constraint, and it is not considering the student's performance throughout the year.
Precisely. So the concerns that we have is we have a 2-point evaluation. We have a terminal and we have a prelim. On the basis of the terminal and the prelim, we have a judgment. We have decisions that are based on the 2 points. We want objective information, whereas that does not necessarily mean that we have information about learning. Many times the direct observation is lacking. We give the case, the student evaluates the case and all. So many times we are actually not present when the history taking is being done, when the physical examination is being done, and the student has all the possible disguise themselves when they are presenting it to you. So when they present to you during an evaluation, the person may be totally different from what the person is from the real life scenario. The trainee lacks opportunity. Only 2 cases that depends upon availability of cases. It may depend upon my concern of I want this case and I want that case, and I may not necessarily take up the cases that are a sample actual of representations of the population which needs to be addressed to. So you have selection bias of the cases that and not necessarily feedback is given. If you have 40 students exams, or if to take 20 students of the exams, you may start off with giving a feedback for the initial ones, and later on, as the time trickles down, the feedback and the quality of feedback starts going down. So these are the basic concerns in the present evaluation system, and it does not give us any idea about assessment of whether learning has occurred or not occurred. This is a problem with our conventional assessment method at present. We want uniformity, we want fairness, but we forget the learner and the learning in the system. I'm not saying the traditional system is bad. The traditional system is needed, but to complement it, you need the other assessments to ensure that learning has taken place. You need to give a fair chance to every individual to see that the learning is occurring, and that is where we are missing out on. So what we are looking at work-based assessment is basically the DUS component, which is the direct observation at the workplace. That is the direct observation when the person is actually doing the task. So if my third year is posted in the orthopedic wards and is measuring range of motion at that point of time, and I'm observing over it, that means it is my direct observation. Many times we are doing it, but we fail to document it. We fail to write it down in a standardized format. So the docs and the mini-secs are the ways of standardizing our observations. They are the ones that tell you that in this format you need to look at it. This is the process of how you go about it, and this is how it's going to help the learner. So these are standardized formats which are used for evaluation of learning. They both follow almost the similar principles, except that DOPS is for one particular activity, one particular procedure, whereas mini-secs looks at different core skills. What are we measuring here? We are looking at what you can observe and what you can measure. You can take the whole task as one. That means if I'm doing SDCs, I would take the whole SDC as one thing for DOPS. Whereas when I'm looking at patient evaluation, I may just look at the history taking component, or I may just look at how they can do the physical examination, or I may just look at whether decision making is possible or not. So I may look at one competency, or I may look at multiple competencies and take it as a whole. As defined, it focuses on procedural skills. That is why it is called as direct observation of procedural skills. Just because we don't do venipuncture, we don't do catheterizations and everything, these are considered as procedures in the medical fraternity. But we have our own procedures. Our practicals are as good as procedures. And as it is defined, it could be procedural or practical skills in the clinical area, where a procedure is a manual intervention that aims to produce a specific outcome during the course of patient care. It may involve execution of a task, like if you're asking a person to give manual therapy, utilization of a technical equipment. You may be asking a person to do it with a flutter or a spirometer, or you're doing a suctioning procedure. Could be diagnostic, as we are doing a physical diagnosis, interventional, where we are doing a plan, strategic plan of care and implementing the therapy. So it can range from the simplest of the tasks to the most complex sequence and can involve multiple activities. What do we do? The assessor and the assessee. There are two people here now, the teacher and the student. This is student directed. That is the first thing. Both DOPS and mini-secs, both are student directed. In the sense, the student chooses the assessor, the student chooses the topic, and the student chooses the time. So, like how we are doing things, normally we direct that this and this is the date, you all have to come for exams, and we are the ones who are giving the cases and we are doing everything. But here the onus has shifted on the learner, the student. What is the job of the assessor, the teacher? It is to directly observe the student while they're doing it. Make judgments about how they are doing it, about the components that are there, the small things that you may have found out, grade them, give them feedback. The whole process of DOPS and mini-secs takes around 10 to 15 minutes. If you're concentrating on only a small portion of it during the mini-secs, you may take it down to 5 minutes, and you have multiple such encounters. This is but followed by a 10-minute feedback. The feedback is the most crucial aspect of both DOPS as well as mini-secs. What is the preparation that is needed? First, you have to make a list and identify what is it that you want to observe. Select the component or competency from the list that you want to assess. Negotiate a suitable time with the trainer. Score on a standard sheet. It's a global scoring, which tells you about whether the behavior, the observation that you had was unsatisfactory, was satisfactory, was excellent. So you have a grading generally on a 9-point scale. Many people devise their own gradings where they put it down. Suppose it's a 10-mark thing, then they put in one mark for each and a 10 component which has been checked. But again, it will go in a systematic blueprinting of the grading format in that case when you want to convert it into marks. Otherwise, for general purpose of use of DOPS and mini-secs, it is on a global rating scale. When you are not observing a particular thing, for example, I want to only concentrate on history taking, I don't want to go to examination and all. For this purpose, I will mark the remaining as not observed during this particular encounter. And then it is giving the feedback, which is the most crucial element. The feedback has to be constructive and contextual focused, based on what that person has been doing. What are the good things that you observed? What was the strength? And what were the areas of improvement? How did you feel the overall competence was? So when you're giving feedback, it is like a narration. So it is narration of the performance that has been done. Taking feedback and giving feedback both need training. Neither the student should feel offended, nor should the teacher be offended during the feedback session, and this has to be explained to the student or the trainee. Similarly, the teacher, that is the assessor, receives a feedback about the satisfaction of how the DOPS procedure is. And this is the most important thing in learning, that the feedback allows the process of improvement and learning. So from the first DOPS to the second DOPS to the third DOPS, whether learning has occurred or not, whether that feedback was integrated or not, will guide as to how much the learner has gained and has had an active involvement, and whether the desired competency is being achieved. And hence the feedback is the most powerful tool of both DOPS and mini-secs. It should be done in an atmosphere of trust, confidentiality, and it should be authentic, not giving just for the sake of giving a feedback. Once that is done, what you do is you need to give an action plan to the student, that is the trainee. Tell them how they can improve on it. It's not just left on saying that, okay, you did during the SDC, your placement of point electrode was fine, but you did not move down the pulse durations as was required. Now, if I leave it on there, I'm leaving it for the learner to try and judge and understand, okay, how was it to be going? So an action plan of what it is to be done, what should have been done, how to improve, and what next, and when would be the next DOPS is done. So that's a whole framework of an action plan for the skill development. This is done again when you can consult with the mentor. All of us have mentorship programs. So the mentor now starts getting involved. The mentor can review the trainee action plan if required, and the mentor can assess the progress that has occurred after implementation of action plan during the next stop. So that is one thing. That means it is In continuity, it is longitudinal. It does not stop at one point, and you need minimum 6 to 8 DOPS in order to have a good reliability of around 0.96. Its reliability is as good as that of an OSCE. The idea between the DOPS and the OSCE is that OSCE is a controlled environment. It's broken down into components. But when you look at DOPS and Minisex, the environment is real. So there, whatever occurs in the real scenario is in the real context of the patient. And that brings out the basic difference between the two. You have standard DOPS forms with various sections. The first section is basically like a demographic details that you have, the institution, the names, the details of the assessor, SSCs, the date, the practical, the setting, that means it was OPD, indoor, outdoor, which ward, ICU area, all that. And then what was the total score? Then you have an area where you are actually marking the score chart. There is a column for feedback in the end, followed by the satisfaction of the assessment by both the assessor and the SSC, and then it is signed. And such DOP forms are then collected over the period of your at least 6 to 8 DOPs are performed so that you have a total idea of how the progress has been. The scoring is generally given in the form of global scale, that is unsatisfactory or potentially harmful. Then what does this mean? Generally, we don't intervene or interfere when DOPS is being performed. It's observation without interference. But where you feel that it may harm the person or it may be not right for the patient, in that case, you need to intervene in between and stop, because that is for patient safety. It could be borderline, marginal, needs attention, satisfactory, above satisfactory, demonstrating a higher level of skill than expected, and not observed or not applicable. Generally, you require at least satisfactory to say that the person has achieved the competency. As the person goes ahead and manages in various complex situations, becomes more and more competent to have the entrusted professional activity. Now, this is in general a DOPS form. I have cropped the part of the demographic areas of it and the lower so that we can just concentrate on how basically it goes. So you have something called as whether there was a previous observations were present or not. Then you have how many times, you have the difficulty levels, and then you have the gradings as below expectation, borderline, meets expectation, above expectation, then cannot come in. And this is a list of all the items on it that one basically sees. Similarly, you have the Minisex. Minisex, the full form is Minimal Clinical Evaluation Exercise. The difference between the Minisex and the DOPS is it evaluates 7 core skills. And what are the core skills that it is evaluating? History taking, physical examination, communication, clinical judgment, professionalism, organization efficiency, and overall clinical competence. Each is a major competency by itself and can be taken individually during one single encounter. And what we are doing basically right now in the long cases is taking all the competencies together without having an exposure of assessing whether learning has taken place in each and every competency during their coursework. So all the DOPS and Minisex adds to the formative assessments, whereas when you are adding your scores 1 and 2, that is your terminal and prelim, that's where you're summating it. So at present, we are summating it without having the formative component enrolled into it. This is a typical Minisex form. If you see, it's almost the same as that of the DOPS. Only thing you have the 7 points, that is the core skill areas. You can have definitions made of how we are looking at history taking. So for a second year level of history taking, your definitive criteria for satisfactory would be different to a person who is in the 4th year. Similarly, when you're talking about reasoning, For a fourth year, for an intern, and for a PG student, the definitive criteria would be different. The level of complexity can be set and defined. So this needs a lot of work, this thing. So, and we can use both DOPS and Minisex in under the umbrella of supervised clinical practice that we are putting in. Under a lot of things where we are talking about procedures and practicals, our EMG, electrodiagnostic tests, manual therapy, entities, airway clearance maneuvers, even mobilizations out of the bed and performing fitness assessments, they all form a part of our procedures and it can be implemented in over there. This is just to show you how we can formulate our DOPS. Now this, what I have done is about SD curves. So we have scoring about that. And we start from prior checking of the instruments, whether things are in place, how we do for our practicals. Positioning of the patient, whether it's proper or not, illumination, putting the motor point, searching for the motor point area, looking for minimal contraction, noting down the voltage, maintaining positions, whether it's, how you're writing it down, how you're maintaining, observing the contraction at that point of time, changing the pulse duration during the contraction, and when you end it, putting it off, checking the patient's skin for irritation, redness, talking to the person, putting it on the graph, interpreting the graph, and communicating. So there are so many things in that one component which can be taken up as a DOPS procedure. But we need to sit down and define that. So we need to prepare checklist for various things. Like a common checklist that I've just put in for an example is you begin with greet and introduce yourself. So you're looking at certain communication components, both verbal and non-verbal, informing to what is going to be done, whether it's a model of the patient, taking consent, positioning self, positioning patient appropriately, placements of hand, placement of the body, commands that how we are giving, observing for discomfort and ensuring patient comfort. So from the technique to the communication skill to the empathy component, professional component, professionalism, all this can be evaluated when we are using the DOPS and the Minisex. Now, I have been doing a lot of talking and I want you to at least put down on chat, after telling you so much about what DOPS and Minisex is, that what do you feel now are the strengths of using DOPS and Minisex? Can we have it on the chat?
And one answer is uniform way of assessment. And it is related to the real environment. It is student centric and it is giving feedback, clear cut guidelines for student assessment. Specific assessment can be done in shorter time and each small procedure can be evaluated. More comprehensive evaluation. Continual evaluation.
Right. So, yeah. So there are so many things that we are looking for, and what we are looking for is what we call it as a meaningful assessment. So we are doing the assessment using these procedures of DOPS and Minisex will add more meaning to it. You have a global evaluation and you have a chance to interact with the student, directing them and telling them what is to be used. It's not very difficult. It is easy to use. There is no copy business here. There is no false report that is being generated. It is reliable and valid. Valid because you will see a change in the points when you move from one DOPS to the other. Reliable because there are multiple tools, multiple times that it is done. It's not one instrument or it's not one exam that is giving you this thing. When you have only one exam, then that's not the right form of the assessment. You don't need too many preparations. It can be incorporated easily into the routine clinical. It sees actually what is there in the clinical area. The person is in that context. It requires the individual to explore. He may, if I am giving a case, then he has certain standard things with it. But when in the clinical area, the context of the patient is in that area and becomes totally different. He may have to refer to colleagues. He may have to talk to people. He may have to look back on the resources, the published resources that are there. So it involves a lot of things. So it gets into the self-directed learning for that individual. And that's how you're going to help them. It has benefits that it tests the highest level of Miller pyramid, that is the DUS. And with increasing public accountability and increasing emphasis on performance, the shift of assessment, the basic paradigm shift is now towards assessment for learning and assessment of the learner, whether the learning has occurred. Both soft skills, clinical skills, professionalism, everything can be given. And feedback is not imaginary. Feedback is based on what you see, context specific. It inculcates a reflective practice into the individual. So you reflect. The teacher also reflects and the student also reflects. So there is a lot of reflection, and the reflection is the best way of learning. Unless we analyze it, our own selves, of what went wrong, what could have been done better, how can I do it differently, you cannot move ahead and have the learning curve completed. So with this, we find it's feasible, it's easy, it is giving us uniformity in the sense that we have a standard format on which we preparing checklist and giving and doing it. At the same time, we have given opportunity to the individual to check, to get back, to learn. Every learner moves with its own learning time. So there may be people who may want to do it slowly. There may be people who have already done it and would want to move ahead faster. So there are a lot of things that we are seeing in this. So are there any challenges now for us to implement? I want to know from the teachers that tomorrow if MUHS decides that it wants to implement DOPS and it wants to implement Minisex, are you ready for it? Or do you see any challenges? Can we have it on the chat box, please?
Answer is time constraint. Another answer is documentation will be tedious.
So how can we make the documentation better?
Long
Why do,
exercise in one for many students.
sorry?
Time needs preparation for checklist.
So once we have had things in place, then we can think of the way forward. So basically setting could be one of the challenges, whether you want it in an ICU area, indoor area. Yes, it does require a lot of training. There will be a lot of resistance, but once people are trained for it, the faculty is trained for not only the checklist, but also giving feedback, then it can move ahead. Calibrated is what we are looking at, what to look for. So you need to cue your eyes as to what are the cue points that I want to see. Identify that this is suboptimal, and that requires a little bit of training, but it's not difficult. Any performance that you say that it's not satisfactory, or when you say it is unsatisfactory, needs an additional tool to say that this has got a weightage. So it may be with addition of other things like OSCE or the other exams where you say, well, the overall performance is unsatisfactory. You cannot just only on DOPS say that, okay, the person is incompetent and cannot do it. And it requires a lot of training on how to take feedback, give feedback. People should not get offended. It should go with a positive stride. And that is what is very important for explaining things. So as you say, you find challenges and you find limitations and you find time constraint and you find that you need to do a lot of work. So yes, it is a lot of work. You need to develop a clear policy for different teaching and learning culture first in the workplace-based assessment. That culture has to be adopted by the institute. We need to create friendly procedures which are user friendly, specific rating forms and checklists. We need not go and make them very, very, very elaborate, but sustenance should be taken care of and assessment of learning should be taken care of. We need to identify the clinical competence and attributes. And we have so many teachers in Maharashtra. If all the teachers get together and divide the work and make checklists for uniformity, then I'm sure it's not very difficult. You select the required core procedures essential to be performed. So what are the essential things that are a must? That needs to be identified. Multiple observations, multiple observers. It's not that that teacher only needs to do all the jobs. It may be somebody else. Like I can share you my experience that when I did my project on professionalism, where we were putting in the piloting the whole thing, where we did a workshop and evaluations. We did the evaluation using professional mini evaluation exercise. Like mini-sex, you have PMAX, that is the professional mini evaluation, which has all the different components which evaluate professionalism. And all our clinical staff did evaluate the interns on that particular PMAX, and they found it very, very useful. They found it very easy, very nice, uniform. It built the gap that was existing between the theory and practice, was bridged by using these PMAX forms. So it's not that people can't do it. You have to just train people and get them in stride that it can be done. There are more options that are available. So the trainee needs to explore a lot of options. Adequate time needs to be given. You can't be sitting on their head, but you just need to observe patiently to them. And in the end, you need to stimulate. You need to stimulate, you need to motivate so that learning occurs. And the whole job of the teacher is a facilitator. It's a coach in order to facilitate that learning has occurred. The competencies are developmental. You move as your student enters in your first year very fresh, who's a very novice, to going out as a proficient and an expert who's going to do professional activity in the society. And in order to do that, we need to address, challenge, stimulate, motivate, and reflect so that they come out as expert masters. To summarize, these are tools for assessment of learning. It has a good utility, where utility refers to whether they are reliable, whether they are valid, whether they are feasible to be doing. So it has got a good utility. But yes, it requires time, effort, planning, and training, but it's not difficult. And once you start using DOPS and mini-sex, you will find them very easy. Once you get tuned to it and training to it, and even the students like it, because there is a full-fledged documentation. You can see that where they have gone wrong. They can see where they have gone wrong. They can see what efforts they need to put in to have to shift, that directs them to learn more, to practice more, and come out as professionals. With this, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take. Thank you.
I take this opportunity to thank Arya ma'am for enlightening us and sharing her knowledge regarding the new pedagogical approach. I further thank Dr. Sanjeev Jha, President of IIP, Dr. Ruchi Varshney, National Head of IIP Women's Cell, Dr. Pooja Kamble, Dr. Suvarna Ma'am, State Coordinator, Dr. Snehal, Dr. Uttara, Dr. Nirali for their constant support. I also would thank all the participants for giving their precious time and attending this webinar. And all the participants are requested to please share their feedback about this webinar.
No questions? You can personally message me the questions, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, Maria ma'am. Can you just share your email ID so that if there are any questions, participants can ask you the questions.
Can I type it on the group?
Yeah, please.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you.